inside the United States, every congressperson and every senator who sits on a board or a committee feels the need to justify their seats so that they can run on something for re-election from their constituency. But their constituency is not a representation of the United States. It's a cross-reference of just their constituency,
yes, right?
So here's some bureau in New York or some borough in New York that thinks completely differently than this municipality in Alabama. But you have human beings who have to represent both of those, yes. And now they come together and they sit on a committee and they have to decide what they're going to do. When we were prosecuting the war on terror, there was a lot of focus on economically incentivizing and giving alternatives to the kids and the teens and the young adults who could become jihadis, right? How do we give them something else to plant other than opium? How do we give them some other way to make money so they don't have to join, ISIS? How do we give them some other opportunity so they don't turn jihadi? Because if we can upset that, what they call the radicalization ladder, if we can upset the radicalization ladder, we can essentially cut off the flow of new recruits for the future. And it was working for a while. And that's why you started seeing digital recruiting efforts and why you started seeing, lone wolf ISIS operators in the United States, because we were effectively cutting off the pipeline of future recruits. Well, then as we started winding down war efforts, early 2000s or early 2020s, as we started winding down those recruits, we had this huge infrastructure of USAID that because it's the government, if you don't use it, it gets taken away. So now all these AID programs are trying to struggle to find a justification for why they should continue to be funded. And you have all these mid-level and senior level officers who have grown in an era of global war on terror who now need to justify themselves for the next 15, 20 years so they can retire. And you have this base of senators and congressmen who are trying to create excuses so that they can go back to their constituency and say, see, we're doing a good job. And that's how you end up having these ridiculous...
You're looking at it as government incompetence.
Absolutely. It's government incompetence. And it's not incompetence at USAID. It's incompetence for the people who have to dictate the policy that USAID has to execute.
What do you think of the vitriol and anger at what's happened leading to the pendulum shift in the other direction of people now supporting and saying, get rid of the whole fucking thing?
It's sad. It's not the best way forward, but I understand where it's coming from because right. Just like we're seeing with Doge, just like we're seeing with so much of the American government right now, the idea of saving $1 trillion is really motivating. The idea of slowly improving the effectiveness of a government agency is not so motivating, right? So instead, we're all we're culturally at a place right now where we're like, let's just break the toy and build a better toy in its place, with no guarantee that the new toy is actually going to be better.
I mean, cynically, I don't have a lot of hope for these types of things because this is where I do agree with you, and I think people don't look at this point enough in that the government's just massive and there's regular, Jim and Joes around the water cooler who should be doing something else and they're not, and then something doesn't get done and there's a slippery slope to that, and then, this happens and that happens and boom, you have a fucking budget problem. Like, I get that 100%. But another thing you always say, and we've talked about this before, but I love litigating this with you to see where your head's at, is you always talk about the element of conspiracy, you said it earlier, being written in when it can be explained by incompetence or stupidity. Now, here's where I level with you. I think people are far too easily jumping to conspiratorial lenses on everything. I mean, you go on Twitter, it's fucking hilarious. Every goddamn thing is like, oh my God, this whole cabal did this and now everyone's dead. And it's like the world is not tied like a bow like that. That's not how it works. There is incompetence. There are real things that are less evil and more just stupidity that lead to things happening. But my issue with you always taking that stance is that it allows the 99% versus the 1% uncommon rule. What I mean by that is you, Andy, could say hey, 99% of the things we hear these days that are conspiracies really are just incompetence or stupidity or not true, right? I might even agree with you because the numbers are so high on things we hear. But what it allows is that every time something really might be in that 1%, you can then say, no, this is one of the 99 right now.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Like, do you see the issue with
I
taking
absolutely-
that stance?
I see the issue. I see the issue, and I see exactly what you're saying when it comes to being able to write off the one because of the other. What I'm really trying to say is this: the 1% of possible conspiracies should be taken seriously. But right now, when we have so much wasted effort on things that are explainable through incompetence, we lose the resources, we lose the attention, we lose the effort, we lose the credibility of the 1%. Because
Yes.
how do you even differentiate something that is worth our effort for the 1%?
I agree.
Right? Versus everything else. There's all sorts of instances. Here's what I know about government, right? There's two important things that I know about government that I think are so important to understand here. First, people who make a career out of government, the vast majority of those people have nothing better to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they make a career out of government, right? It's not because they're dedicated. It's not because they believe in the American dream. It's not because they believe in America. It's because they woke up one day and realized I have a really good gig. If I just do this thing without causing any waves for 30 years, I'll have a really good gig, a really good retirement. So I just need to sit here and do the thing. Let the president change, let the Senate change, let priorities change. It's not my problem. That's the Senate and the Congress. That's their problem. My job is just to check boxes, do the thing. They don't become experts at the thing. They don't go for continuing education with the thing. That their job is just do the basic thing for 30 years, get your retirement and move on. That's the first important thing, right? The second important thing is the government really wants to keep what it does wrong a secret. It wants to keep it a secret from foreign governments, and it also wants to keep it a secret from the American people. Because government doesn't want people to worry about the stability and the functionality and the competence of government.
Which then leads to them worrying about it when they don't tell them.
Correct. So what you end up having is this situation where government incompetence is not only predictable, but it's acceptable. Because we don't really know just how incompetent the government is, because they're very good at covering their own tracks, changing their own documentation, burying this, hiding that, classifying this, classifying that. So we don't even know the depths to which the incompetence exists, and that's what leads us to then conspiratorially believe that they're very competent.
Yes.
So competent that they're tricking us. They're fucking not that competent. They're barely competent enough to run the government, which Doge is finding they're not even doing that well. Right? So at what point will we believe, well, shit, maybe that guy with the big hair who's been calling the government incompetent for 3 years, maybe he's onto something.
What do you make of, speaking of conspiracies and that people throw around, what do you make of the vast, strong, growing opinion happening, at least on a subset online, of people trying to say that our foreign policy and basically like a lot of forms of our government is influenced by the Israel lobby?
I don't know that that's a conspiracy. I also don't know that that's a new argument. I think that for a long time, we've known that there's an unequally large amount of influence that comes from the Israel lobby. And I wouldn't call it the Israel lobby as much as I would say Jewish diaspora, right? Because
Interesting. Well, yeah.
Because again, going back to the incredible, like the rampant ignorance that exists among the average American, most people don't differentiate between Israel and Judaism, but they are two different things.
Oh, 100%. Yes.
Right? So most people
I have this conversation with my dad all the time.
So you can say that Israel's policies are violating international rights. You can say that. It's objectively proven that they're violating international law.
Agreed.
That doesn't make you an anti-Semite.
That's right.
But here in the United States, we get the two conflagrated. We get them confused.
We do, or there is propaganda that's brought in to make us get them confused?
Maybe a mix of both.
Okay.
But I would say, again, propaganda is an expensive game to play. I would say that like systematically from the time that we're like kids, one of the things that anybody in the United States knows is that you never support a Nazi and you never question a Jew. That's two things that even every kid is taught that. You laugh because you know it's true.
No, I was never taught to never question a Jew.
That's something every one of us is
You
taught.
were taught that?
Dude, I'm telling you, the vast
I
majority
grew
of
up
people.
around a lot of Jews. That was not like, it wasn't a part of the lesson. Like, don't question what a Jewish person says.
Yep, you can't challenge them, you can't question them, you can't argue with them because don't you know what they went through? Don't you know what they went through in World War II? The whole world persecutes the Jews. And if you have any kind of critique about Israel, it becomes a critique against Judaism.
Right. Yeah, I hate that.
And that's not right. So that is the predominant confusion across the country. So now even people who look at the situation, they're like, that's not right. That doesn't mean they feel confident going out and saying anything. They might think it in their head, but then at the same time, they're thinking, but I can't say something like that. I might be an anti-Semite. I don't want people to misunderstand me.
one.
I might be called an anti-Semite. I might be accused of being an anti-Semite. And guess what? Once you're accused of being an anti-Semite, you're an anti-Semite. Nobody questions the accuser, right? They all just assume that must be what you believe. You must be an anti-Semite.
I think, and this is where it can get dangerous and go hard the other way, and this is what I worry about. You know, I like equilibrium, which means I like where things make sense based on objective fact, and that's something that we really struggle with in society because people don't believe in nuance. But like, I think that's shifting the other way to where now it's been propagated on so many people who clearly aren't anti-Semitic. They're simply stating things that are problematic from a human being perspective, that the word doesn't carry weight. It's very similar to like Black Lives Matter. Like they ran their fucking course because people are like, all right, not every fucking person that's ever existed like is just racist to everyone. You know what I mean? And so it just feels like it's in a very, very tenuous kind of spot right now where like there are elements of what I will call evil, of course, within the current Israeli government who top down are kind of causing this stuff because of their relationship with people in our government and stuff here, where they are now having a boomerang effect right back at all of their people as opposed to just them.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you that there's a shift. And I also don't disagree with you that the shift is being amplified and sped up because of the terrible policies that Netanyahu is putting in place. Right. So now there's more people who have a reasonable reason to disagree with the policies of Israel and are able to voice those opinions intelligently to other people who understand intelligently the objective arguments against the policies of Israel. And we can start to have a more mature conversation. That has not been the case for a long time. And I would say it's not the norm yet, but hopefully we're going in that direction.
I mean, people also get so fucking fired up over this that they lose all sense too. And I'm talking on both sides of the issue. Leslie, can you pull up on Twitter real quick? I think the guy's name is Misfit Patriot, something like that. It's a big account on Twitter. And sometimes it pops up in my feed. Yes. Scroll down. Okay. Go down. Or don't go to his thing. Go to the search of him. Like go to where you typed it in. Yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah. Type in that. That's fine. Yeah. Yeah. Just hit enter on that. Just type in Misfit Patriot to the actual search bar. Go to Explore. And then just type in that. Don't have whatever that is from or whatever. I don't know. Twitter's fucking bugging out right now. But I do want to pull this up. Type in Misfit Patriot, but don't click his account because it'll be the top one coming up. I want to read what this guy wrote. This guy comes at it from a pro-Israel perspective. Now hit enter. That's perfect. Okay. Okay, where Ian Carroll tweeted, hit that because it's a response to that. Okay, now scroll up. I want to read this. Hit show more right there. Yep, perfect. This guy said, I'm glad. Oh, no. Click the inset post. I'm sorry. Right there. He goes, I'm okay with as many dead kids as it takes to stop Hamas. You people sound like woke leftists trying to make an emotional argument so you can argue from a position or moral superiority. You might as well put a rainbow flag and pronouns in your bio. If you try to emotionally blackmail me, I will pull your fucking card. Literally every single Palestinian, I'm reading a tweet, YouTube, this is per YouTube policies, I'm reacting to this isn't me saying this. Literally every single Palestinian can die if that's what it takes to save Israel. How many kids were in Sodom and Gomorrah? God didn't give a fuck about how many, because the number of people who were righteous was 0. He's including kids in that. What about the firstborn of the children in Egypt? How many children died in Hiroshima and Nagasaki? All of them. That's my acceptable cost. Palestinians R-worded and murdered 1,200 innocent people, took Americans hostage. Fuck them and their whole bloodline. You fucking pussies don't give a fuck about the tragedies of the world until it's the people who chant death to America. Fuck them and fuck you too. Now, people who chant death to America and more particularly people who are actually terrorists and whatever, as I already stated, I got no problem with them being wiped off the face of the earth. Have a fucking day. He's taking all these people and putting that in there. When I see stuff like this, I didn't tweet about it. I stay away from tweeting on these things, but like, fuck that guy. You know what I mean? I understand the world is this fucked up place that you talk about and weird decisions got to get made sometimes. And it's stuff that, I wouldn't feel comfortable with at home. But when it turns people into this guy claims to be a dude who like is about, I guess, being a Christian based on what he said there. This is the most viscerally anti-Christian shit I've ever seen, not to mention of when he talks about those Palestinians. What is it, Leslie? Like 8% of Palestinians are Christian? Something like that. Apparently all of them can die too.
So this, I think you just showed his following was like 56,000 people.
I guess, yeah.
So my point is, just as fucked up as this guy is, there's 56,000 people on just this platform who are following him.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of silent voices who want to hear more of what this guy has to say.
Yep.
Right? I also want to call to the forefront our role right now in amplifying this guy's ridiculous voice. Because now anybody listening to us might go check him out. Some of those people might go subscribe to this guy. So we have a responsibility in furthering this idiot's reach.
I think about that all the time, and I do play that game in my head. Like, do I want to do it? Do I want to not? This went mega viral, so I'm not too worried about it.
How mega viral is this?
Just his post is 2.4 million, but it was screenshotted all over the internet.
Oh, I got what you're saying.
So it's been seen tens of millions of times.
The reason you hear my dark opinion of humanity is because of this. Because this is not an uncommon way of thinking. This is not somebody who has an advanced education. This is not somebody who's seen the world. This is not somebody who is even really worthy of our time to talk about. But it's a fantastic snapshot of what all those silent voices out there that we don't know where they stand. A lot of them stand on opinions like this, stand in this kind of position, in this kind of corner. Why do I call us a dog toy and the devil a Rottweiler? Because of shit like this. Like, this person couldn't be more wrong. They couldn't be more wrong. And what's even more fascinating is that there are lots of people who have this exact same structure of thinking, only they think that every American can die and every American child can die, because to them, we're just as villainous as this guy thinks Palestine is to him, right? And I would argue that outside of the United States, there's a whole lot of people who don't like the United States.
Yeah.
More than the rest of the world dislikes the Palestinians.